Satyam nasti parodharmaha. Satyam lokasya divaha. Shruyatam drishatam kriyatam uchatam parapara sharanam agachati. Bhagavan sharanam agachati. Dharmam sharanam agachati. Sangam sharanam agachati. Sajayugam sharanam agachati. Om soham tatvamasi. Om parapara ki jai. Om Jai Bhagavan Ji.
Truth is the highest religion. Truth is the light of the world. Let it be heard. Let it be seen. Let it be done. Let it be told. Come take refuge in Bhagavan. Come take refuge in Dharma. Come take refuge in Sangha. Come take refuge in Satya Yuga. Om Saham Tatvamasi. Om Jai Bhagavanji. Victory to that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
India, rise and rise again. O Maitreya, go out into this world, bold and unafraid. Initiate all willing souls in my name and in the name of the one universal God who has sent me unto you, and bring forth the age of universal God's pure divine truth for the salvation and liberation of all suffering souls. And when the bigots cast stones against you, take every stone they cast and use them to build my church in this world. And when they seek to oppress you and destroy you, rise and rise again and again, like the phoenix from the ashes, until the lambs have become lions and the rule of darkness is no more. Om Jai
Tatsa Veturinium Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Hara Tatsa Veturinium Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bharat Bharatatsa Veturinium Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Asato Ma Sadgaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, beloved universal God, all radiant universal light, as we turn our minds to you, fill our hearts and minds and lives with your clear light. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, reveal the light. From death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Victory to that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.
Jai Bhagwan.
Jai Bhagwan.
Parapraji ki jai.
Parapraji ki jai.
All victory and glory to God the beloved.
All victory and glory to God the beloved.
Today, I'm going to go right into my talk. Instead of doing the usual worship that we do. Because there's something so essential, so important, that we need to talk about. That today only, it supersedes all of the ceremony and the ritual. Now, some of you may want to tune out, because I'm not going to give you a general talk. I'm not going to give you the talk that inspires the unenlightened and inspires those who do not have holy initiation, those who do not have God's new covenant, to come here and receive it. I'm not going to give you a philosophical, a theological, a psychological talk today. Today I want to talk to you about essential things. And I may ramble around a little bit, but let your mind just follow mine. One of the first principles of being a devotee, a disciple, a follower, an adherent, an apostle, is to follow the mind of the guru, to follow the mind of the master. And I see a lot of people just want those who are teachers, gurus, masters. They just want them to just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. This is the stuff of which cults are made. You must follow my mind in order to understand what I'm saying. There's a little card, and I always get it somewhat wrong, but it says basically, I know you think you understand what you thought I said, but what you really don't understand is that what you heard isn't what I meant. Nowhere is this more dangerous than in religion. Years ago, and I'm going to use these names because it's been 20 years now since these people disavowed me and my religion, so I doubt that there's any connection between them. If they're sensitive to it, then, deal with it. Years ago, there was a fellow named Satya, and we were putting together a book to be published. In those days, you had to do typesetting by hand. You couldn't do what we do now, which is to put it into a PDF file and send it off to Amazon, and they'll fix it up for you and produce a book. And this gentleman, this Maitreya, we used to call people Adhyatmawadi in those days, was in a hurry to go skiing. And so he hurried up and finished what he was doing, and we got all the galleys ready to go and everything else. And we found somebody just happened to pick it up by the guidance of God and said, there's something really wrong here, Maitreya. And instead of putting, you shall not kill, he put, you shall kill. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble that could cause? That little typographical error? Look at the trouble that it's causing with Islam. You see, everything happens in its own particular period of time, in its own circumstances, and under its own conditions. Under a condition of war, all the rules change. Now, when Muhammad, one of God's mercies to man, was trying to begin Islam, the people of Mecca rose up and they wanted to slaughter every last Muslim. And so he had to set rules that were rules of war. And so in the Quran it says that the only three things you can do with an infidel, in other words, one who is not faithful, an unfaithful one, a non-believer, is to kill him, enslave him, or convert him. What did we do with the enemy in World War II? You know that Werner von Braun, the one who was the architect of many of our rockets that now take people into space, was at one time a member of the German government who came over to our side and said, I'll work for you. We converted him. Others we put in concentration camps, and the rest of them we killed. This is the rule of war. But you see, that war was fought, and that war was won. And yet there are still people out there today who take up the Quran and say, this applies to today. Well, I can't argue the Quran because I've read it several times, but I'm not a scholar, nor an imam or anything like that. But I can tell you this, that particular writing applied to the time in which it occurred and the conditions under which it occurred. The same with when Joshua blew the ram horns and brought down the walls of Jericho. That's an interesting story. You should read that. Because the people of Jericho weren't fighting Joshua. In fact, all they did was retreat into their community, shut all the doors and gates, and say, we don't want any part of what you're doing. And yet, Joshua and his troops attacked Jericho and killed all these people. Now, taking what Muhammad wrote at the time that he was fighting for survival against the people of Mecca and transposing it on today would be like taking what Joshua did with the ram horns and going out and having every soldier blow a horn. Doesn't fit the day. Doesn't fit the time. Yes, people can consider that there's a war on, but it doesn't fit the time. And so, periodically, God awakens within another ordinary man or an ordinary woman to become another mercy to humanity, such as what's happened with me. God awakened within me, took me into perfect final union with Him when I was 8 years old. I had died, and then asked me to return here, which I did. And He said that I would have to come back here. The first one was by grace. I didn't do anything to earn the first one. I fell off a flight of stairs with my brother on top of me and died for a few moments in this world. It's a long time beyond this world, but in this world it was just a few moments. And so He said, you'll have to go back and you'll have to do the second thing. You see, one is by faith, two is by works. One is by faith, two is by works. And so I came back here and I spent 23 years stumbling around, fumbling around, alternately running towards and running away from this destiny. And finally, in 1977, I found the way back home in a perfect final union with God. And once again, He asked me to return here, and I did. You can read the story in the Holy Book of Destiny. I always tell people, you can get this on Amazon. It's the Holy Book of Destiny, Maitreya, the Friend of All Souls. And people say, oh, you're trying to hawk your book. No, I'm not trying to hawk my book. We get, I think, $1.25 for each book because I set the price as low as I could so that anybody, anywhere in the world could afford it. No, it's just that if you don't read this book, you're not going to know what you're talking about when you come and tell me I'm false. See, nowhere in the Bible does it say, beware of true prophets, or true teachers, or Maitreyas, or anything of the kind, or Sadhgurus. I don't see the word, I never found the word Sadhguru in the Bible. Never found the word Maitreya in the Bible. And so, the only thing you're supposed to be be wary of if you're a Christian are false prophets. First of all, I don't prophesy. I won the lotto once. I won 80 bucks, turned around and spent it all on the lotto, and that was that. I don't prophesy. I don't predict the winner of horse races or anything else. And so I am not a prophet. So what's your problem? But even if I were, how would you know if I was false unless you studied with me and practiced what I give you to practice? You know, Jesus said an interesting thing. He said, those are mine who follow my teachings. Lets a lot of you guys out, doesn't it? Because you don't follow His teachings. All you do is say, I believe. Well, that's one part of it. One is by faith, two is by works. But you don't follow His teachings. Maybe you're more of a false prophet than I am. But a prophet I'm not. And how do you know I'm false? The only way you know you judge that I'm false or say that you know that I'm false is because I'm not in your camp. And this is like saying anybody that isn't with me is against me. Now Jesus said that, but you're not Jesus. Are you? I don't think so. So, you see, nowhere in the Bible does it say beware of true prophets. Nowhere in the Bible does it say beware of true teachers, or Satgurus, or Maitreyas, or anybody else. It's just false prophets. And how are you going to know if I'm a false prophet unless you read my book? And then what you're going to say is, oh, this can't be true. This is evil because it doesn't agree with my book. So let's put your book and my book out there, and we'll have them duke it out, and we'll have the great book smackdown. What? God gave you this thing between your ears so that you could use it to think, so that you could reason, so that you could have insights, inspirations. Now this is going somewhere. Don't think I'm just wandering around, because I'm not. But we have to get some of this stuff out of the way. We've got to push some of the garbage out of the way first. And part of the garbage is that if you don't live in my house, you live in a whorehouse. Which is basically what the fundamentalist Christian is saying when he says, if you don't believe as I believe, you're evil. You're a tool of the devil. You're being motivated by Satan. Of course, I'm not, see, he says. I'm not being motivated by Satan because I'm good. By definition, I'm good. And you're bad because you're not me. Isn't that what the Nazis said? Isn't that what the fascists said? Isn't that what the communists say? Because they're not gone. The Nazis are pretty much gone. The fascists, they're pretty much gone. The communists are alive and well. You'll find them right in your local university. Just go down and ask. They don't make any bones about it. And so, unless you come and study with me and practice what I preach for a time, you will never know. All you can do is have your particular bigotry and your prejudice, which is, if you're not me, you've got to be bad. Isn't that kind of taking God's name in vain? Isn't that kind of putting yourself in the place of God? I think so. So where am I going with this? Well, God gave me a mission. First of all, He did something amazing. As a result of these two self-sacrifices and the vow of compassion that I made to Him, that I would never again enter into perfect final union with Him until I had seen you and every other soul safely home into perfect final union with Him before me. But that I would return to this world, live out this life in this ordinary body, die like any other person, of whatever cause happened to come along, and then ascend into the spirit realm and live in the heart of every soul, guiding every soul home to perfect final union with Him. And He accepted that vow. And then He said, because of this vow, because of these sacrifices that you have made, I make this new covenant with all souls, that whoever will receive the true enlightenment of your holy initiation and follow you to the end of your life, I will give that soul the very perfect final union with me that you sacrificed for the sake of all souls. And that soul will never be born into this world again to suffer, to sorrow, to be sick, or to die, but will live forever in perfect oneness with me. God said that. It's a new covenant. Oh, there can't be a new covenant. Wait a minute. Dear Christian, isn't that what the Jews said to you? Isn't that what every establishment says when God brings forth a new mercy to man? Look at Buddha. Most people don't understand Buddhism. Buddha was a Hindu. He rebelled against Hinduism because of its decadence at the time. and they tried to kill him. There were many assassination attempts on the Buddha. Look at what's happening today in our political system. The established Republican elite on the East Coast wants to dictate that we're going to darn well have Mitt Romney. No, I don't know Mitt Romney. He may be a wonderful man. I know many Mormons. They're wonderful people. Really great people. So I don't know Mitt Romney, but I know this. The East Coast elite Republican establishment wants him. Seems to me that they wanted John McCain last time. How'd that work out for you? Not real good. So then there's a guy named Rick Santorum. He's kind of in the middle. And then there's a guy named Newt Gingrich, who they don't want at all. They have slammed that man into the ground. Why? Because they know they can't control him. See, this is being played out politically, what gets played out religiously, whenever there's a new mercy that God sends to man. And the equation is always the same. If you don't believe in my book, if you don't believe my way, if you don't do what I do, you are, by definition, a priori, look that up if you don't know what it means, evil. That's probably the most profound definition of pure bigotry that I can think of. And yet it's accepted. And so God has sent me back here with a mission. Now, that mission didn't come easy. I argue with God a lot. He always wins. But I'm stubborn. I argue with him. And after he had given forth this new covenant, he said, now go give this to all the souls of the world. And I said, Father, I'm going to be just one person here on earth. How can I give this to all the souls of the world? And so he said, I will give you this, my supreme promise, that when there are enough souls on this earth who have received your holy initiation, the true enlightenment of your holy initiation and my new covenant, and are following you to the end of their lives, I will, God said, I will spontaneously, without judgment, without qualification or anything else, I will spread my new covenant into the hearts of all souls. And all souls will have the opportunity to come home into perfect final union with me. As a drop of water falling in the sea becomes the sea, they will become me and live forever in me in perfect final union, perfect oneness. Never again to be born, to suffer, to sorrow, to be sick, to grow old, to die again. Because we are born. We do suffer. We do sorrow. We do get sick. We do get old and we do die. Not once, not twice, but again and again and again and again. Forever, until we find our way home into perfect final union with God. Is there any other way? Yeah, sure there is. There's always another way. That's why I joke with my Christian brethren and tell them, well, you guys have already sewed up the only way, so we're the only other way. They don't usually laugh. But it's kind of funny. No, there's never an only way. Certainly, individual people have made this journey by themselves since the beginning of time. You would think, by the declarations of some Christians, that nobody was ever saved before Jesus put feet on the earth. What happened to all those millions and millions of souls that were here before Jesus? Perhaps billions, who knows? They all went to hell, did they? Think on that a little bit, okay? Before you exercise your rampant bigotry on somebody you don't even know. But you won't. And so, what we're doing here, why I'm standing here before this holy shrine, is because God has made a new covenant with man in our day. And He's given us His supreme promise that not only can we secure our own perfect final union with Him, but that we can do something for others in the immediate sense and in the long term. In the long term, we can win His new covenant for all souls. Now, you notice I said that all souls will have the opportunity to go home into perfect final union with Him. That is because God has established within every soul, at the time of our creation, freedom as one of the highest qualities of our soul, of us as soul, which is spirit, which is one with Him. What's the other highest quality? He is. That's the only quality higher than freedom. And the worship of Him and the recognition of Him. Now, I've told you many times, this is the Maitreyan symbol. Maitreyan symbol. Maitreyan symbol. Why? Because it stands for this. The thumb stands for free will. The index finger stands for free choice. The middle finger stands for self-determinism. Doesn't have anything to do with the other use of the middle finger. Self-determinism. This finger, the third finger, stands for individual freedom. And the one right next to it, closest to it, stands for absolute, inescapable personal responsibility. Absolute, inescapable personal responsibility. You will be held responsible for every least thing that you choose. And every least thing that you refuse to choose. Because in refusing to choose, you're also choosing, aren't you? You'll be held responsible for everything that you do and everything that you don't do. By held responsible, what do I mean? Do I mean that there's a judgmental God that wears black robes and has a gavel that sits behind a desk and judges you? No, I don't. What I mean is this. God has set up this universe so that you will, sooner or later, experience the effects of every single thing that you cause. And not causing something is causing something, isn't it? If you see a crime in progress, and you go, I don't want to get involved, I'll just go do something else, then you've caused something, haven't you? You've done something. You will experience the effects of that cause. In the East, traditionally, they call this karma. You can call it the universal law of cause and effect, but that's a long thing. Karma is short. If you understand karma. And so it is through the acquisition of karmas that we set ourselves up for future lifetimes. Why are you experiencing the things you're experiencing in this lifetime? It's because of what you've done in other lifetimes. And I defy you, Christian or otherwise, to explain why it is that somebody like Mother Teresa, now I'm not talking about Mother Teresa directly, dies of cancer. What did this woman do in this lifetime to die of cancer? What about the guy who never cheats, grows up, gets married, has children, devotes himself devotedly to working his fingers to the bone to provide for his wife and kids, never cheats, never lies, and yet his wife cheats on him and leaves and takes the kids, the house, and the whole kit and caboodle? What did he do in this lifetime? Nothing. He is atoning for something that was done in a previous lifetime. Now, last night I was writing about our condition. I sit up in bed and write at night. My friend Cat and I sleep by myself, except for the cat. And I was writing about past, present, and future. The past is dead and gone. The future has not yet come. The only place that we can live is in the present. But we can learn from the past and apply that to the present to create a better future. What we do today walks, talks, breathes, eats, and lives tomorrow. And you will meet yourself on the road of life no matter what you try to do to avoid it. And by my experience of having died twice to this world, at the end of this life, you take what I call the long walk. And the long walk is a walk down a road, sort of. It's not really a road, but it's like a road. And on one side are the people that you blessed, and on the other side are the people that you cursed. And you have to stand before each one of them, face to face. That's all. You just have to stand there. That is one of the most painful walks I've ever taken in my life. Because you don't know how many people you've hurt. You don't know how many people you've cursed. You don't know how many people you've cheated. You don't know. You just don't know. And of course, the people you blessed, it's wonderful. On this side, the right-hand side is wonderful. The left-hand side of the road is unbelievably painful. The only place I've ever seen this was a mustering out ceremony, I think at West Point or something like that, when a person is thrown out of the school. Thrown out of the school. And the humiliation of that, having to walk that line, is something that the people who described it said they would rather die. They'd rather be shot. So here we are, here I am, with this mission to accomplish. This mission is twofold. One is to get you to perfect final union with God. Now, God said, whoever receives the true enlightenment of my holy initiation and follows me to the end of this life, He will give you the perfect final union I sacrificed for your sake. I want you to have it. Now, along the way, there's something else that comes along. It's called self-realization. You will have, perfect final union is self-realization. But there's another form of self-realization. It is realizing, while you're living in this body, it is realizing your oneness with God as really and as truly and as solidly as this. Self-realization. Not selfish realization, self-realization. Selfish realization is what's practiced by the New Age crowd. Self-realization. To know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you and God are one. Is it going to make you prettier? No, maybe. I don't think so. It wouldn't make me any prettier. I'm still an ugly old cuss. Is it going to make you smarter? Well, you'll certainly be smarter in knowing that, because that knowledge is the basis of all other knowledge. In the Upanishads, the Hindu scriptures, it says, he who knows the nature of gold knows all things made of gold. So if you know that you are one with God, then you know all things that are one with God. And all of this creation is one with God beyond the veils of illusion. Beyond the veils of illusion. And so you'll know that. Is it going to make you rich? I don't think so. I doubt it. You know, there's this saying that if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? There's also the counter saying that says, if you're so rich, why aren't you smart? You don't have to be smart to get rich. Sometimes you just have to be diabolical. You have to bankrupt countries and deprive people of their means of living. You will experience the results of your actions. All of them. Karma. Karma. This should be a warning symbol. So now, why do we have this shrine? I told you I was going to wander around, and it's important that you just follow my mind. Just cruise with me, okay? When I was a kid, we used to get in the car. Gas was 13 cents a gallon. We used to cruise. We'd cruise all the way out to the valley. You're just driving. You're not doing anything, just cruising. Cruise with me. Cruise with me. Why is this shrine here? This shrine represents the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. It is shrouded by this veil of illusion. In truth, I'm talking to you from out there, but I'm really in here. How can I say that? Because if you had not found me in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, you never would have found me in the world. And yet you don't know it, because it's shrouded. See? So what you have to do is you have to part these curtains so that you have an open space between you out here in your life and the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, where I and God are. Where the three flames burn within you. And if you do that, life will change. If you will let it. We were talking this morning about helping people. Help is an interesting thing. If a man is trying to dig a hole in the ground with a shovel, and he's sweating, and he's weak, and he's tired, and he's ready to fall down, you can help that man dig that hole. You can get another shovel, and the two of you can dig. But if that man is sitting on the ground saying, I gotta dig a hole, help me dig the hole, help me dig the hole, you can't help that man. So you can't help somebody that's not doing something. You can't help somebody that's not trying to make something happen. Now God will help you. But He will only help you when you have exhausted everything that He's already given you. He will only help you when you have done everything you can, the very best you can, and you're pulling yourself along the highway of life by your fingernails, and you're finally give out and you just can't make one more pull. He'll be there if you have faith, and He'll help you. But those who sit alongside the road and say, please help me to get to the next town, please help me to get to the next town, God. God's going to say, I gave you 2 feet. I gave you metabolism. I taught you how to walk when you were a baby. Why aren't you walking? Because I'm waiting for you to help me, God. I'm waiting for you to help me. Well, it's an old story. Most of you heard it. There's a flood. And everybody got up on their roofs like they do in the Midwest. As an elderly couple, they got up on the roof, and they were very faithful and devout people. And they prayed to God, God, please, please save us. We don't want to drown. Please save us. And along came a boat, a Coast Guard boat. And they said, get in the boat, get in the boat. They said, no, no, God's going to save us. So they argued with him for a while, but then he finally said, we got to go. There's other people. Last chance. No, God's going to save us. So off went the boat. And pretty soon along came a helicopter and dropped down the ladder and said, come on, we'll pull you up. We'll pull you up. No, 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 God's going to save us. God's going to save us. We prayed to God and we have faith and He's going to save us. Well, the waters rose and rose and rose and glowed, glowed, glowed. Finally they drowned. And when they got to heaven, because they were good people, they said, I don't understand this. We had faith in God. God, why? Why did you let us drown? And God said, I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. You refused them both. In this age, God is sending you a new mercy in the form of myself. I'm nothing special. Don't expect me to walk on water. But I'll tell you what, you walk on water first, then I'll walk on water, okay? I prefer to drink this stuff. I am nothing special. I said I would come back and live out my life in an ordinary body, and I am. This body happens to have prostate cancer. By the way, if you happen to have it, get in touch with me, because there's a very, very important man here in the local area who does nothing but keep men alive, who has this stuff. He's written a great book. You can look it up on Amazon. It's called The Prostate Snatchers. Am I putting in a plug for him? You bet I am, because he's a good man. He's a Christian. But he's not a bigot. You want to know who he is? Contact me. I'll let you know. I don't want to give out his name without his permission. But this is a very ordinary body. It gets tired. I'm 68 years old. I've got all these spots on the back of my hands from steroids and things like that. Last time I went to the doctor, Richard, I won't tell you his last name because that, again, is, unless I have his permission, I'm not going to say his name, said, well, you got 68-year-old hands. That made me mad. I said, wait a minute. Yeah, I know, but...
Yeah.
So, this is a very ordinary body. It's a very ordinary mind. My IQ in high school was, I think, 120 something, you know, low, medium, 118, I think. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I didn't like that, so I got a book, How to Raise Your IQ. And I went through it, and next time I took it, it was like 5 points higher. I said, well, this thing's not fixed. So I went on to a junior college. I went on to a university and got 2 degrees, one in psychology, one in behavioral science. That wasn't enough because my family had never gotten degrees before. There was no professional people in my family lineage. They were all poor folk. So I went ahead and got a marriage family therapy license too. It wasn't but a year into using it that I had this second self-realization and perfect final union with God, and there went the marriage family therapy practice. There went the yacht, there went the money, there went all that kind of stuff. Or maybe the fishing boat, I don't know. Canoe. And so, if you come here and challenge me and say, well, show me some tricks, Maitreya. Well, you know, I actually have learned a couple of magic tricks, but they're really funky. I'll be glad to show them to you. But that's about it. I don't have any tricks. I'm an ordinary person in this world. It's not that what I am in this world that counts. It's what I have done and won for you and all souls. But you see, in order to bring about this, to fulfill God's supreme promise, and I call it divine critical mass, that point at which God says, okay, that's enough souls, here goes. Everybody gets my new covenant now. See, he won't tell me how many. I've asked many times. I don't ask anymore because every time I ask, he says, enough. When there are enough souls. You know, how many is that, Father? He says, enough. And I think enough means more than just enough souls. So I quit asking. But we have this opportunity. You have this opportunity to join in this effort and secure your own perfect final union with God at the end of this life. And perfect final union is also perfect total freedom. In fact, it's the only perfect total freedom there is. Because God is the only total freedom there is. Who else is totally free but God? And so in becoming one with God, you become totally free. Aren't you tired of being in prison? Aren't you tired of being a prisoner? Aren't you tired of living in a house that is constantly burning down until it finally falls over and gets put in the ground? That's your body. It's your body. You're going to die. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell you that because I know that you've never heard that before. But you have to hear it. You see, when death comes knocking on your door, it's too late. You can't say, okay, now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it. Yeah, okay, I want holy initiation. I want to do it. No, when death comes knocking on your door, you're done. And that's whether you have not received God's new covenant through my holy initiation, or whether you've received it and you're blowing it. It's not hard to follow me. The main requirement is that you do, there's three things that you pledge yourself to at the time of holy initiation, before I will give you consecration. One is that you will preserve what I'm going to say right now. I will call it God's eternal universal religion, in all of its purity, as God has given it to me and as I give it to you. You'll preserve it. That means you'll learn it, you'll understand it as I teach it and as I mean it, and you will teach it to others or pass it on to others clearly so that there's no misunderstanding. So you become a teacher of sorts, a mentor, a guardian. Two is that you will practice God's eternal universal religion in all of its purity as God has given it to me and I give it to you. It's not hard to practice. The main practice is 3 prayers a day and 2 meditations a day. And they don't have to be very long. That's the personal practice. But there's another practice. Remember, God gave us a new covenant. He gave us a promise. The other part of that is that you will go out into this world and offer God's new covenant to all those that you meet and to all those that you know. Offer it. And invite them to come in and join this holy community. Why a holy community? Because in order to carry a telephone pole, it requires a whole team of people. You can carry a toothpick, can't you? But you can't carry a telephone pole. You need help. You need friends. You also need friends to stay on the way home. See, it doesn't matter if you start out great and you're great in the middle and you fail in the end. What matters is that you're failing in the end. And you could be a faithful Maitreyan for 20 years and then in the last year go, I'm not going to do this anymore, this is all bogus. And you lose your perfect final union with God. So you need friends around you that go, wait a minute, think about this, you know, There are some people who say, I can't do this. I just can't do it. And I have to say, what can't you do? And I'll go on to the third one. The third sacred vow is that you will propagate God's eternal universal religion in the world in all of its purity as God has given it to me and I give it to you. Propagate doesn't mean just throw initiation at somebody. It doesn't mean just, you know, if you're propagating a species of plant, it means you're growing it. You tend it, you help it, you grow it. And in growing others, you grow yourself. In growing others, you grow yourself. Ain't always pleasant. Ain't always nice. But you grow. So there are those who say, I can't do this. I can't do any of these things. And so to those people I say, please tell me specifically what it is you can't do. This is like a guy who's afraid to cross the street. Now, I was a marriage family therapist. Remember, there are people who have these phobias. I'm afraid to cross the street. I can't go across the street. I can't go across the street. I'm on the curb. No, I can't go across the street. But I guarantee you that if the guy turned around and looked and there was a particularly vicious pit bull running down the street with foam coming out of his mouth and his teeth bared coming straight out, I'll bet he would go across the street. I know he would go across the street. Absolutely, without a doubt. He'd go across the street. I don't know if this story is true, but I've read it, I've heard it, that back in the days when they had, we had World War I, there was a lot of shell shock, as they called it. People fought in trenches, and there were bombs going off all around them, and people getting their arms and legs and heads blown off and everything. And they called it shell shock. Later on, we sanitized it to be, what was it called? Battle fatigue. And then, that wasn't far enough away from the truth. We had to sanitize it even further and call it post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's
That's like calling the crapper the Biffy. Doesn't smell any better. It's the same thing. But it's sanitized now, see? Oh, sometimes I'm glad I'm not practicing marriage family therapy. But there were these guys who would go into a catatonic, what's called a catatonic stance, or a state, having nothing to do with cats. They would be like this. And they just sit there. Sometimes they'd rock, like this. And so, at one point, I think these guys probably would be in jail today, but in those days you could actually do something really different and not get put in jail. They had these guys that were catatonic. Been this way for days. They have to shove food down just to keep them alive. So they tried something. They brought a couple of these guys into a room, and they had this guy who was a colonel or somebody like that come in and go, you know, look, we just don't have enough food. We've got to do something. We're going to have to take the healthier people, and we're going to have to get rid of the people who can't take care of themselves. And they had a 45 semi-automatic sitting on the table. And I had this guy doing this. And the guy said, well, you know, we got to do what we got to do. He picked up the 45 and went, chikunk. And the guy went, wait a minute! Hold it!
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that story is true or not. But I do know that when we had the major earthquake here in Los Angeles in the 60s, and the Veterans Administration building fell down, there were people that were in that catatonic state in the wards of this Veterans Administration hospital. And when the walls came down, all of a sudden, some of the shrinks were surprised to find these guys out there like commanders directing rescue operations. Now some of them afterwards went right on to become normal people. Some of them went back to this. So this business of I can't do it, I just can't do it. I understand fear. I understand not wanting to be ridiculed. I understand being kind of paralyzed when you go to do something. And I have one story I can tell you that is verifiable because I was the principal person in this story. I was never really athletic. My friend Ron Shepard was strong. He was like a wire. This guy, you know, he could walk past Vic Tanny's gym and grow an inch. I could go in there for 6 months and work my butt off and go, oh, where'd it go? Nothing there. And we were inside Oroville Wright Junior High School one night. We jumped over the fence, and there were the big guys. You know, if you grew up as a guy, there were always the big guys. The big guys were a real threat. And these big guys had dogs, and they were inside too. So they saw us, and of course we had to make various gestures to them because we thought we were a big deal, right? And they cut their dogs loose on us. Well, I could never, you know, these chain link fences are 8 feet high. It would take me a half hour to scramble over a chain link fence, literally, because I'd slip and I was weak. I was weak physically. And so my friend Ron, he was over there in a flash instant, and I kept saying, I can't get over, I can't get over. And I turned around and I saw these two big dogs coming across the lawn at 180 miles an hour, and I don't know what happened, but the next thing I knew, I was standing on the other side of the fence. You see, I could. I wouldn't. I could. I wouldn't. But I did when the motivation was great enough. So, don't come to me and say, I really want perfect final union with God, Maitreya, but I just can't do what you ask. Because I have to say to you, it's not me asking, it's God asking, and if you can't do what God asks, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But you can't have it. And even though you may have received holy initiation, when death comes knocking at your door, it's going to be too late. And death is going to come knocking at your door. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It is not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when. God doesn't ask much of you. He asks that you follow me. He asks that you strive to realize your own oneness with Him while living in this life. That's practice. And He asks that you propagate His eternal universal religion so that others may have the blessing that you have received. Nothing could be simpler. Nothing could be more just. And yet, in my own community, there are those who say, I just can't do it. I can't do it. No, you won't do it. Because there's nothing here that you can't do. There's nothing here that any ordinary person can't do. How do I know that? How do I know that there's nothing in this religion an ordinary person can't do? Because I am an ordinary person in this world. Remember I told God I would come back here and live out this life as an ordinary man? There's nothing you can't do that I ask you to do. Because I'm kind of like John Wayne in the movie. I ain't asking you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. In fact, I'm not asking you to do anything I haven't done myself. Because if I hadn't done it, you wouldn't have God's new covenant living in your heart. I didn't have any trouble doing it. But if you have the force of darkness closing up the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, then what you have to do is you have to break it. You have to open it. You have to say, I don't care. That dog is coming down the street and I'm scared to death to cross this street, but I'm scared more of that dog. And you should be. So you may be scared of ridicule. You may be scared that somebody's going to call you a cult member. You may be scared that somebody's going to say something behind your back. You may be scared that somebody's not going to like you. Believe me, none of that counts when death is coming to your door. And death is coming to your door. He's just taking a long way around. You got time, but you can't put it off. And even more than that, where's the love? Where's the love for the souls of this world? I didn't give up perfect final union with God and come back here for any mechanical reason, any theoretical reason, any theological reason, any psychological reason. I came back here and gave up my own perfect final union with God. Or, let's put it in the proper order, gave up my own perfect final union with God and came back here twice and made my vow of compassion because of my love for all souls. Because all souls are manifestations of God, living in darkness and agony and suffering. One of our people contacted a guy, and I'm going to use this name again, I won't use his real name, his given name, or his chosen name, his secular name. Called a guy by the name of Sanjaya last night. He used to be one of us for 11 and a half years, or 11, 12 years. And then somebody got a hold of him, did a number on him. It's been 18 years since we've seen him. And he called up, and this person tried to say, I'm worried about your mortal self. I'm worried about your spiritual self. You know, you're going to lose your perfect final union with God. And he hung up on her. 18 years! You would think that after 18 years, anybody would have matured enough to just sit down and let's talk about it. But no. And here's this man who all he has to do is take one baby step across this line and he can have perfect final union with God, and yet he won't do it. Somebody got to him really bad. Whoever the cult deprogrammer or whatever it was that this guy went to did to him is worse than anything I've ever seen a Hare Krishna guy or gal end up messed up in. Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, if that's what you want to call it. So I told you I was going to ramble around. See, this talk is not meant to give you a logical lineage of ideas that will lead you to a logical conclusion. I'm tapping on the door of your soul. I'm tapping on the door to the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. I'm not tapping from this side. I'm tapping from this side. Are you listening to me? Do you hear me? Are you going to open the curtains so that we can be together? Or are you going to leave these curtains closed and try to rationalize or justify or rectify or philosophize or theologize all of this away? If you do, I don't have any choice but to let you go. I never let anybody go completely, but I have a consideration here. In order to carry out the holy cause, purpose, and mission that God has given to us, of getting His new covenant to all souls, creating divine critical mass, and bringing forth the age of His pure divine truth, and winning the universal salvation and liberation of all souls, we got to have a community. We have to have a community of people. In the East, it's called a sangha. I like that word because community doesn't really say it. You know, I live in Redondo Beach. I got a community. I go to the city council. They give me 3 minutes to talk and blow me off. So sangha is a better thing. Sangha means people who are united together by like-mindedness and by holy initiation and by a common cause, mission, and purpose to which they have dedicated their lives. And they've dedicated their lives to one another. So we have to have this community. We have to have it. On this pendant it says Bhagavan, that's me. Dharma, that's our religion and our teaching. Sangha, and self-realization. Sangha. It's part of the triad. You can't have a stool with 2 legs, it'll fall right over. The Sangha is the part of that stool. You've got to have a strong Sangha. You've got to have a strong holy community of the enlightened faithful. Then you can support one another. Then you can carry this telephone pole of God's new covenant forward into the world. But you see, we get into a situation where one person can spoil it all. Well, how can that be, Maitreya? I mean, one person can't spoil it all. Let me ask you this. And I'll be a little gross here, so if you got kids, stick your fingers in theirs. I don't think this will be offensive, but a little. I'll give you time to do that. But I'll start with this example. Suppose you had a beautiful Olympic swimming pool with beautiful tile all around it and everything else, and you were about to jump in to the deep end, and you looked down in the shallow end and you saw a dead rat. Would you jump in that swimming pool? No. Now that's a huge swimming pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, but you wouldn't jump in there, would you? No. Suppose there was a huge bowl of punch like this, and there was a rat turd in the other side of the bowl of punch. Would you say, well, it's not on my side, I'm going to have me a drink? No, of course you wouldn't. That's where the expression "a turd in a punch bowl" came from. So whether it's a rat in a swimming pool or a turd in a punch bowl, you don't want to be one. This has severe repercussions. Now you can say, well, I'm just going to get out of here then. Wait a minute, do you have to either be a rat in a swimming pool, a turd in a punch bowl, or get out of here? Can't you just do the simple things that God has asked of you? Put your ego aside. Put your fears aside. Remember, when the dogs were coming, I jumped over the fence. I don't even remember touching it. But my friend Ron said, you took that fence in one leap with your left hand and you were over. And I said, I don't believe it, but I did. Had to be because I was on the other side of the fence. Death is out there. It's coming for you. It's coming for you. I don't know when it's coming, neither do you. Even Jesus said, no man knows the time of his own leaving. I don't know when it is. All we can do is do all that we can, the very best that we can. So whatever it is, if you're a Maitreyan and this is hanging you up, whatever it is, it's not as, the fence isn't nearly as high as those dogs are vicious. If you will just surrender, if you will just give yourself to God, put this asinine ego aside, or to steal a phrase from the Christians, let go and let God. But you see, I've been saying you've got to help yourself before God's going to help you. So that's not quite true. You have to do all that you can, the best you can, and leave yourself open for God to step in and give you that extra boost over the fence when the dogs are nipping at your heels or yapping at your heels. Boy, those are vicious dogs. So this is who I am, this is what we are, this is what God has given us, and this is what you have to do. There is no greater blessing, there is no greater happiness that I have ever experienced than giving God's new covenant to another soul. Now, by contrast, there's no greater pain than having somebody reject you. But, what are you going to do? My brother had a solution, my little brother, God bless him. He became a junkie. I said, why do you take this stuff? Why do you put this crap in your arms? He said, because I don't feel anything. All I feel is totally at peace when I do it. It killed him. He was totally at peace. Sooner or later it'll kill you. So, it's worth suffering for. Isn't somebody else's perfect final union worth suffering for? Not for some of you. Not for some of you. But if you don't start now, and if you don't do it now, I mean, let's face it, after you've done a thing 3 or 4 times, it gets easier. And at first, the fear, the apprehension, the embarrassment, all that other stuff shrouds the joy that's really there. But after you've done it a few times, then you begin to know the joy that's there. Somebody sent me, I'll see if I can find it. Somebody sent me a thing. People send me these movies. It's a movie of a guy called The Birdman. This guy has a suit. He has a suit. And it's got, like, fabric. And this guy jumps off of a cliff that's 1,000 feet high and soars like a bird and then opens a parachute. And before he jumps, he's going, I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death. But he does it anyway. And see, he would never know what it's like to soar like a bird if he wasn't willing to go through that fear and jump off that cliff. It's an amazing movie. Look it up on YouTube. I think it's called The Birdman. And when you look down that cliff and you look at this guy and you realize that all he's got is this suit of fabric of some sort that's got stuff here like a bird, you go, my God, how does he do that? Well, I bet the first time he did it was a lot harder than the third time. It never gets easier, but the garbage blows away, and eventually you begin to find the joy, the bliss that's in giving this gift to another soul. And knowing that this soul now has the opportunity for self-realization, the opportunity for perfect final union with God, and is now a brother or sister of this holy community. Doesn't mean you're going to get along all the time. We don't get along all the time. But it means that you now have people around you who, if you will be faithful to God and to Maitreya and to your religion and to our holy cause, purpose, and mission, will never, ever abandon you. Never. People say, well, my marriage has got to be more important. In California, there's a 38% divorce rate, folks. And most of them end unpleasantly. But this family, the family of God's holy community, is a family that you can depend on, that will never, ever desert you so long as you are faithful. Now, you can't be unfaithful and go, come on, you guys, you deserted me. No, you were unfaithful. What are we supposed to do? Have a dead rat in the swimming pool so that nobody else wants to jump in? Is that what we're supposed to do? So if you're that dead rat, get out of the swimming pool and quit being a rat and start being a Maitreyan. Because the day's going to come when death's going to knock on your door. And you're either going to go into perfect final union with God, or you're going to come back to this world to suffer and sorrow, get old, get sick, die, and be reborn again. And you're going to carry with you the karma, the baggage of all of those people that you could have saved from suffering, sorrow, and death, but didn't. Not because of any good reason, not because you didn't believe, not because you were a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or some other religion and you didn't believe, but because you just didn't care enough. Because you were so concerned with yourself that you wouldn't go outside of yourself to do something for others and for the world. And because you wouldn't do something for your brothers and sisters of the Sangha. It's easy to open this curtain. I'm in here. I'm in your heart, the same way I'm in this shrine, waiting for you. Waiting for you to receive my holy initiation in God's new covenant. Waiting for you to be a true Maitreyan if you've already received holy initiation in God's new covenant. There are 7 billion souls in this world. We can save them all if we just accomplish the holy cause, the holy purpose, and the holy mission that God has given us. Actually, God can save them all. But we have to do our part. So, if you come, what I want you to do first of all is I want you to get this book. Not because, believe me, at $1.25 a piece, unless there are 200 million of you that buy the book, which I doubt. It's not going to make any difference. We just use it to make more books. The Holy Book of Destiny. I'm Maitreya, the friend of all souls. Why the friend of all souls? God named me the friend of all souls. I didn't name myself. He said, because if there's no greater love hath any man for a friend than he'll lay down his life for his friend, what kind of love is it when someone will sacrifice perfect final union with God so that others can have it? Before him, I'm the last man standing. I'll be the last one out of the room. I'm the guy that gets to shut off the light. Because I will not leave this creation until I have seen every last soul safely home in a perfect final union with God before me. So go get this book. The Holy Book of Destiny, Maitreya, the friend of all souls. Read it. Read it cover to cover. I don't care if you study it or take notes or anything. Please don't just sit there and compare it to some other book. It's not comparable to any other book because it's written in the first person. I know of no other holy book on this planet at this time that is written in the first person. Read it. Then, if God inspires you, if God moves you, then come and receive His holy initiation. Or my holy initiation. Receive His new covenant through the true enlightenment of my holy initiation. Join this Sangha. Join this religion. And let us go about this world spreading His new covenant to all souls who will have it of their own free will and self-determinism. This is self-determinism. We have to be careful with that one because of weird things in our culture. But this one here is self-determinism. who will have it of their own free will and self-determination. And once, just like the guy that jumps off of the cliff with this clothing on, when you see this video, it will amaze you. The first time you jump off the cliff, it's going to scare you. Second time it's going to scare you. This was his, I don't know, this was his umpteenth time of doing this, and he said he was scared to death. Always is, before he jumps. But it's worth it after he jumps. So, come and help us to do this work. Help us to get this divine gift to the suffering souls of this world. There is no other remedy. There is no other remedy. You may say, well, what about Christianity? What about Judaism? What about Islam? What about this? What about that? You guys have had 2,000 years, 6,000 years to fix it. Give us a chance. God says we can fix this if we work hard enough. We won't necessarily fix it in our lifetime. But we can plant the seeds of a future lifetime in which it will be fixed. There's nothing here that you can't do. And do easily. I am the most ordinary person that I know. I'm not stupid. I'm not ignorant. I'm not incapable, but I'm ordinary. And if I can do it, you can do it. With ease. Probably easier than I can, because you're probably smarter than I am. I'm calling you, both out here and from within the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. Sit in silence, turn within, and find me in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart. Open the curtains, pull aside the veils of darkness, and I will come out. And God will come out. And if you're willing, we will make a new person of you. If you are willing to change and be changed, you will become a new person. Not just in spirit, but in every way. The choice, as always, is up to you. Om Soham Tatvamasi. Om, you and I are one with the one universal God of all creation and no other. Jai Bhagavanji, victory to God the Beloved, that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are.